There are stories behind Joni's ministry that no camera ever recorded, moments of quiet victory and unseen heartbreak that reveal who she really is when the spotlight is gone. Everyone knows the public Joni, the radiant smile on stage, the eloquent voice speaking faith, the woman who turned tragedy into testimony. But there is another Joni, the private one, living a life of constant pain, hidden struggle, and miraculous courage that only those closest to her ever witness. She wakes before dawn. The world thinks she sleeps peacefully through the night, but the truth is she rarely sleeps longer than 90 minutes at a time. Her body aches. The pressure points burn. Breathing is sometimes labored. She often wakes in tears, and no one ever sees that but Doug. He carefully lifts her, adjusts pillows, supports her neck, rubs her arms, whispers gentle prayers, and stands by her with quiet strength. She never pretends to be superhuman. She just keeps going despite what her body tries to stop her from doing. One morning, around 5:30 a.m., before the sun had risen, Doug found her awake, eyes open, soft tears on her cheeks. He thought she was in pain, but then he realized the tears were not of suffering, but of intercession. She was praying by name for 3 different people who had written to her. Their letters were spread across her blanket. She whispered their names out loud, almost as though she was carrying them to God in her arms. Later that day at the ministry office, no one would suspect she had been crying before sunrise. There was a man named Victor, a disabled veteran who had lost both legs in combat. He came to a family retreat encouraged by his pastor, but he arrived with hostility. Stoic, withdrawn, suspicious of cheerful Christians. When he met Joni, he didn't smile, didn't soften. "I don't need inspiration," he said. "I need answers." She didn't argue. She didn't preach. She asked him one question. "What would you tell your younger self if you could go back to the first day in your wheelchair?" He froze. That question disarmed him. The walls cracked. He later told someone, "I thought she would try to fix me, but she actually listened to me." By the last day of the retreat, Victor was smiling easily, and not because his disability changed, but because something inside him did. And that's the kind of miracle Joni witnesses constantly, not always physical healing, but heart restoration. But there were darker moments too. There was a volunteer named Andrew who had secretly struggled with bitterness. He had grown up seeing disability as punishment, thinking God chose favorites. He wondered if Joni ever envied healthy people. He finally dared to ask her, privately, "Do you ever resent people who can walk?" She paused for a long time, then answered quietly, "I used to, years ago. But now when I see someone walking, I thank God that they can. Their ability doesn't take anything away from my calling." That answer shattered something inside Andrew, the belief that joy came from having what others have. He said he finally understood joy is not comparative, it's rooted. But not everyone who came to Joni was seeking hope. Some came in anger. There was a mother, Leah, whose daughter suffered severe spinal deformities. She arrived at a Joni and Friends outreach with despair so heavy it suffocated her spirit. When Joni greeted her kindly, Leah snapped, "You have no idea what real suffering is." Her words cut like a blade, and she regretted them instantly when she realized who she was speaking to. But Joni didn't react with offense or pride. She simply said, "Oh Leah, suffering doesn't compete. It just hurts." Leah collapsed into sobbing, and Joni cried with her. Later, Leah told someone, "For the first time, I met someone who didn't judge my pain or minimize it or spiritualize it. She just sat in it with me." That was more healing for her than any sermon. Another story. A man named Muhammad from Jordan, born into a Muslim family, had felt drawn to Christianity for years but felt bodily cursed by disability. He came secretly to one of the ministry gatherings, hoping to blend in quietly. But Joni noticed him, noticed the way he looked at her, noticed the questions in his eyes. After a talk, he approached her and whispered, Why would your God allow this to happen to you? And she replied softly, so I could meet you, just like this. That answer changed everything. Muhammad became a Christian that day, not because of a theological debate, but because of a personal encounter. Many people don't know that Joni answers letters herself, especially the difficult ones. Doug once estimated that over the decades, Joni has written more than 40,000 personal responses. Every handwritten note, every typed paragraph, came from a place of compassion formed through her own tears. Her wheelchair isn't just mobility equipment, it is her ministry platform. It gives credibility to her words that healthy people cannot match. When she says, "God is faithful," she says it with scars that testify louder than sermons. There was one story the team never forgot, a boy named Rafael from Brazil. He had brittle bone disease, dozens of fractures since birth. He asked Joni, "Do you ever get mad at God?" She told him honestly, "Yes, but then I bring my anger to him, because he's the only one who can handle it." Raphael asked, "Does he answer?" And Joni replied, "Always." That conversation changed the way Raphael began praying, not as a child terrified of offending God, but as a child speaking honestly to a loving father. Late one evening, a staff member walked past Joni's office, lights off, except for the desk lamp. Joni was there alone, her head bowed in silent prayer over stacks of prayer requests. The staffer didn't knock. They just stood there, unseen, watching her pray for strangers with the tenderness of a mother praying for her own children. Not many people know that Joni sometimes grieves silently for people she never meets. She said once privately, "When I hear a mother cry over her disabled child, I feel her pain inside my own body." And maybe that's why families trust her so deeply. Because she doesn't speak to them, she speaks with them. One remarkable story: a man named Ronald, a former atheist, visited her ministry by accident. He was delivering supplies and overheard Joni speaking with a disabled child. After listening for a while, he approached her and said bluntly, "I don't believe in God. I believe in accidents and biology." And she said gently, "Well, God believes in you." That answer haunted him, in a good way. 6 months later, he returned, a changed man, and confessed, "I thought I was too intellectual for faith. Turns out I was just too proud." Meanwhile, Joni keeps suffering quietly. There are days when her lungs constrict, days when the pain in her joints becomes unbearable. There was a night when Doug found her trembling, hardly able to breathe, and asked if she wanted to cancel her ministry appearance the next morning. And she said, "No. If I'm hurting, someone else is hurting too. And they need to know God hasn't abandoned them." Another moment. During a retreat, a small child named Lily, with severe mobility limitations, asked Joni, "Do you think I'll ever run in heaven?" Joni smiled so brightly. "Oh, Lily, we'll race, and I'm going to let you win." That one sentence has been repeated by Lily's family for years, because it gave them hope for eternity. Joni's suffering made her strong, not hard. Her pain deepened her empathy, not anger. Her disability expanded her capacity to love, not withdraw. Behind closed doors, she sometimes collapses into Doug's arms and whispers, "It's so hard." And Doug answers, "Then I'll stand for both of us until you're ready again." Their love, their partnership, their faith, that too is part of the untold story. And now I ask you, because the comments are not just comments, they're testimonies. Has Joni's life encouraged you? Has her perseverance helped you in your suffering? Has her honesty about pain helped you face your own? Has she changed the way you see disability? Has she changed the way you see purpose? Has she changed the way you see God? Share it below. Your words, your story, your honesty may give someone the strength to keep going.